Hello. Welcome to Rooms with Ronald, a podcast brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Ronald Harrington, and this is where we talk all things leasing and marketing. Now, if you've been following along, I've had some great guests recently, but today it's just me. And I was recently pondering because I was asked a question that I never had even thought about, but someone said to me, Ronald, if you had to describe the resident life cycle to a brand new leasing agent who had never worked in this industry, how would you describe it? And that kind of took me off guard for a little bit. Like, I was like, oh, that's a great question. And my mind went to a couple of different places with that. Um, but I kind of settled on one. And I said, well, I would describe it as a relationship. And they said, well, what do you mean as a relationship? So today I thought it would be fun. We just celebrated Valentine's Day last month, and I thought it'd be fun if we kind of broke down the resident life cycle by piece and how I find it that it correlates to a relationship. So let's kind of start off. So right now, research is showing that the resident, prospects are starting to search for an apartment, and it's like 32 days is what the time frame is. They're spending 22 days just plain research. So to me, this is kind of like being on a dating app, and you're like just kind of browsing. Might you might swipe right to connect with somebody, or you might, swipe left. You might like someone, you might message that person, possibly, you're just kind of browsing. You're like, oh, am I gonna start dating again? And I'm sure this is how prospects feel when they actually start like looking for an apartment. They're looking in the mirror like, oh, I have to move again. So there's they're testing the waters essentially, just like we would in real life, right? We're going to test the waters and see what's going. When they are ready to kind of take the next step and reach out to people. So probably going to reach out 12 to 14 places. So to me, this is when I'm more actively involved. So like all the people that I've swiped right on, I'm probably going to message them to see, because at this point I don't know enough information to know if we've made a connection or anything like that. So I'm like, I'm going to swipe right and I'm going to do it to several different people, and I'm going to try to see where the water goes. So now we've kind of moved into a more serious phase of it. So much like we do in leasing, right? So they're ready to contest. Now they've sent us that initial inquiry, probably through the web request. So this is very similar to the dating aspect. So when I'm sending this, I'm like looking who's responding. So just much like dating, I've messaged several different people and I'm like, who's going to respond to me? And then that's how I'm going to kind of make the next decision. So let's kind of talk about our first responses. To me, these should be short and sweet. Like, we don't want to lay out all of our baggage at the very beginning, right? Like, my first email to, someone on a dating site isn't going to list all my bad qualities, everything about me, all the negative, all that, right? Like, I'm going to put my best light forward. So, like, I'm going to make sure to myself that, like, I'm representing myself in the best way possible. We have to do the same thing with prospects. You will hear me over and over and over again tell people the subject line matters. The subject line matters. The subject line matters. We have to grab their attention, because what if, all 12 people respond to them? Which is unlikely, because we do know that 50% of e-leads go unresponded. But on the off chance that your market is kicking butt and here you are ready, like all of your competitors are responding and you respond. So we have to stand out. I hate thank you for your interest. I hate your rental inquiry or your rental appointment. Like, use the person's name, and then kind of go in a little bit more and like intrigue me to open the email. Like, ooh, be mysterious, be direct. Ronald, elevate your lifestyle. Or Ronald, you deserve to live here. Now I'm like, oh, I do. So I read that. I kind of got that subject line. And I want a strong greeting. I want a greeting that pulls me in. I want hello or hi, greetings, something besides just my name. You know, that's where we start to feel like people are being scolded and we're yelling at them. So once I'm in this email, I'm going to kind of insert some information about the community, answer any of their questions, all of that fun stuff, right? Just much like on a dating app, I'm probably going to be like, "Hey, how's your day going? What do you like to do for fun?" As we kind of like browse to see, because what we're looking to do is to see if we can make a connection. We want to see if that connection is there. We don't know that we're a match yet. Just like on the dating site, you don't know if this person is matched with you or not. So we're going to kind of take those steps from that dating and we're going to apply it to that first week. So now, we've responded. Please, for the love of the good Lord, go ahead and include a hyperlink for them to book the appointment. Don't just assume that they're going to hold down and copy and all of that, right? Don't. So include look. So as things, as we kind of get back and forth, the next phase of this, dating journey of the prospect is going to be the phone call, which, it could be a twofold here, right? So, like, maybe you matched with 4 or 5 people or, 6 or 7 that you're talking to, because again, there's no commitment anywhere that you're like, okay, so you're going to call these people. And when you call someone, you call your friends, you call a potential romantic partner, you try to be upbeat and you try to be positive and you find that communication barrier, right? You break through that. The same thing applies here when they come in. So we need to be super positive, like on the phone, like, be hi, this is Ronald with ABC Apartments. I'm so glad you called. I can help you today. Right? Because we want them to feel welcomed. And trust me, people know when you're not genuine. People know when you're not smiling. People know when you've had a bad day. We can tell all of that, right? And they can do that. And this is like the first impression because, we've done the research. We've made sure that our photos look great online. We put that best leg forward, right? We didn't put anything like I always tell people this, like when you're looking at your photos, think to yourself, what would I see? Like if I'm coming into this photo. We're not gonna put, the Friday night rager that we went to and we, might have indulged a little too much in some adult beverages and there's some not so great photos of us maybe in a bathroom. We're not putting that on social media, right? We're putting the best part. Same thing applies. Same thing applies on the phone. Like if I don't want to talk to someone, my personal life, I just send it to voicemail. We don't want to do that at work though, because 50% of phone calls already go unanswered. So why not answer the phone? I'm sure you're thinking, well, we answer the phone all the time. At my property, we answer the phone all the time, which is the case. And I'm sure when you do that, people probably say to you, wow, you answered the phone. Or my new favorite is, are you on site? Are you in the office versus, the centralized leasing model, which there's nothing wrong with, but people still want to know if you're inside or at a centralized office because they probably have had a bad experience with it. So on this phone call, you're going to kind of build some excitement and get them ready to, come see your community. Understand like, what the expectation is, right? So you're going through the thing, you're connecting, you're building that connection on the phone. You're saying you're there, you're checking the boxes, right? Like you're looking for a romantic partner, you have a list, like a standard list, like you have to meet XYZ. This is what the prospect's doing at your community. They're looking for a place to call home and there's some standards. So they're checking it. And you're making sure that you are that perfect match and you want them to come see you. And then you're asking for the appointment. And I hate when people say, well, when can you come see me? How soon can you like, no, like, I want to know, like, you want me to come see me. So ask for that specific time. Can you come see me today at, and whatever that time is, right? Or can you come see me tomorrow at? Just like when you're talking with someone and you're setting up a first date, you would say, hey, do you want to go to dinner on Friday? Do you want to meet up on Friday at after work at like 6 o'clock? Why can't we take that same sense of urgency and that same sense of like confidence into the telephone and ask for that appointment? I mean, they called us for a reason. You're talking to this person for a reason. The two correlate so well together, right? So we have to put that foot forward. We have to put ourselves out there. And if they say no, it doesn't work, just like when you're asking someone on a date, they're going to give you a time that works for them. So that's kind of like that entry phase, right? Like we're still getting to know each other. So let's kind of like shift gears for a moment and let's talk about when they're coming to tour. Are so to me, this part of dating is like that first date. They're coming to pick you up, right? So they're coming at 6 to pick you up on this date. You are going around your house to make sure everything is clean, right? There's no clutter. If you have like when you walk in and there's a table or something like that, for me, that's a catch-all, right? So I'm like, I'm making sure that looks good. I'm probably vacuuming the floor, wiping down all the counters because that first impression matters. So when we look at that from a leasing standpoint, what's that say about our curb appeal? What does the curb appeal look like? Have you done that audit lately, looking at it with a fresh set of eyes? I like to tell people this, like, I want you to go through your property and I want you to think about the pickiest person you know. And this person will then, nitpick your apartment apart, right? So if you have those eyes, then you're going to make a great first impression. And what we forget about too when we're looking at curb appeals, like what does the office desk look like? Now I won't show you my desk currently because I'm at home and it's very messy because I have a lot of projects going on. But what does your desk look like right now? If a prospect came in, would they approve? Would they say, oh, this person may not be the neatest person? We forget that little detail. Just like you're getting rid of that catch on you're cleaning your house, we have to do this for the prospect too. We tend just to do sometimes the bare minimum because we're so busy and it becomes overwhelming. And especially for a new leasing professional in this industry, like they won't know. So now let's think about like when we're getting ready for this first date, right? We probably have pulled out every single outfit in our closet to find the perfect one. We have to find the perfect outfit. To me, this is like the type of questions that we should be asking our prospects. I know you thought I was going to go a different way. No, like when we're finding the perfect outfit, we should be trying to find the perfect home. But we have to do this by asking the right questions. I can't tell you how many people only asked me these closed ended questions that gave them no real information. It gave them the basics. And then they showed me all these different apartments. I wouldn't just go to my closet and be like, I'm going to wear a shirt today. And I'm going to just pull out any shirt and I'm going to wear that shirt. Or, I'm not going to go to the closet and say, okay, I'm going to wear a shirt. So I pull out 5 shirts. I take 5 shirts with me and I keep changing in the middle of this date. Because our prospect's going to be like, wow, they're indecisive. They can't make up their mind. All that. All these people are thinking that. So, much like that line of questioning, identify those needs. What is most important to them? Say, what do you have to have? I love the deal breaker question. I wish more people asked it I wish more people asked me what my needs were versus my wants because I want $1 million. I just need a paycheck to be able to pay my bills. And we're still like on this day, right? So we're still in that discovery phase. We're still trying to make a first impression. We're still trying to, our goal is to obviously on a date to secure a second date and maybe a third and a fourth and, an engagement and a marriage and all of that fun things. But with the prospect, we're trying to say, you should live with us. Here's why. And this is what we're doing. We're making that positive first impression, so we want to make sure that everything is spot on. We're going to stand up, just like if someone come knocked on your door that you're expecting on a date, you would stand up, you would go greet them. I can't tell you how many times people just stood at their desk or just sat at their desk, like waiting for me. Like, no, like I need to be ushered in. I need to be welcome in. So the first day, it's here. The prospects come, right? They know my name. We can play that game. They know, we know with the plan. So we're ready to go. Or even if we meet at a restaurant, right? Like even if wherever we're meeting, wherever the meet point is, they will stand up and greet you. Why can't we understand this concept in multifamily? And I have to ask, where has the hospitality gone in multifamily? So we're there, right? We're going around, we're showing the things. We have to make sure that our image looks like our online persona. Just like on a dating site, right? We put the great photos that are Photoshop. Sometimes you get to the first date and you've been catfished, or the photos are 10 years old and they don't look like that person. And then you're kind of like stuck at that point, right? Like you are truly stuck. Like you're kind of have to go through this journey because it is awkward to be like, you don't look like your photos, so I'm leaving. Well, guess what? The prospect doesn't feel stuck because if they drive through your property and the photos don't match what they are seeing, guess what they're going to do? They're going to keep on driving. So we don't have that luxury like you would on a first date. We only have what they see. And I tell people this all the time. Perception is reality. So do yourself a favor, make sure that you're representing your community online as it is in the present. So when was the last time you did a photo audit? We have to make sure that that works. So we're hoping, that we're making a great first impression. And on the tour, we're engaging with people. We're asking questions. If you're like me, you like to have fun. So you're making some jokes, you're laughing. Things are going great. They're going great, you know. So then you ask for the second date, which might be a feedback question. Is how do you like it so far? To me, if they say yes, then we're gearing towards that second date. And we went through this whole phase. We're like, great. At the end of it, we need to ask, would you like to apply for this apartment? Plain and simple, right? But we don't. Just like at the end of the first date, if it went well, you're going to ask, when can I see you again? Do you want to do something next week? And you're keeping it going, right? So if they say yes, great. If your prospect says no, that's okay. Like they may not be ready to apply because they may not be ready to make that big decision yet, to take the leap of faith, which is totally fine. But you wouldn't stop on a date, right? So you make plans on a second date. You don't ghost them. You don't stop talking to them until the second date, right? And then hope that they show up. No, you continue to follow up. No brainer, right? So why can't we do that in our industry? They came to us, they agree that things are right. They might think it over. They might be looking at other things, all of that, right? Which is okay. We understand that you need some time. Just like you're not going to rush in to move in with someone that you're dating. No, you are going to take your time. You're going to get to know them. You're going to get to meet their needs. Get that. Totally fine. But the key is in the follow up. If you're truly interested in someone, you follow up with them and you continue to follow up with them. And we should be truly interested in every prospect that comes into the door, right? Because there are our clients. They are paying our paychecks. We should want them to live there. So now we kind of set the stage, right? Like things are great. They're taking some time. They're narrowing down the options. We've asked them to apply with us. Now the time has come and they're ready to apply. Now, guys, people to understand this is a huge step for people. Moving is a huge thing. I think we work in the industry and we get numb because we see so many people come and go that we forget the impact of moving and the big decision that it is. So, to me, I tell people when people are ready to live with us, it's kind of like moving in with your significant other. We understand there's going to be hiccups. Like, prospects aren't asking for perfection. They're not. They understand that things happen. Just like you understand when you're dating someone and you're moving in, things happen. You're combining worlds. And sometimes that's stressful. I was reading the apartment rating satisfax biannual survey, and it said like they were talking about a question about surveys and like star rating and what was the minimum star rating you would consider to live at a property. And I found this interesting because we strive for fives, right? But the average was 3.82. So this said we're not expecting perfection, right? We're not. Prospects aren't expecting that. So, if there's a hiccup, just communicate about it. But we wanted to make it the best move-in experience possible because this is going to become a joyous time in their life. Just like moving in with your significant other is a joyous time. And if it's not, well, you should consider something else, but that's a different podcast, right? No. So think about that, right? Like the stress of having to move in with someone else is similar to the stress of moving on your own to a new community, which might be your first time renters. It might be your empty nesters. It might be the first couple who just got married and they're, moving to their first apartment together. All of that is already stressed enough. So let's do everything that we can to keep the relationship going. Just like in a relationship, if you have a fight, you have communication about it and you work through it and you make a decision. Either you stay together or you don't. Here's how it really here that's our industry, right? So something happens. Maybe the apartment wasn't up to par when they moved in. Maybe a work order didn't get done in time. Maybe, their rent was late. There are lots of challenges that happen in this industry day in and day out that we have to communicate and we have to be open and we have to be honest and we have to be transparent and we have to have that communication with these prospects, with these residents. Because again, they're not expecting us to be perfect, not by a long shot. So something goes wrong, right? Pick up the phone, invite them into the office and have them, talk through it with you. Come to a solution that works for both people. We get in hindsight and like we get defensive when things go wrong, whether they're our fault or not. We get defensive. If someone points out a flaw, we go on the defense. We have to get over that. Things happen all the time. Some things we can't control. So we just can be better and we can communicate the plan. Here's what's going to happen. And at the end, someone's going to be happy. It should be both people. So, we're working through the problems. And then I always say renewal time. Renewal time to me is like almost a second anniversary. It's an anniversary of some sort, right? And there's going to have to be a decision made. Either we're staying together or we're splitting. So, staying together obviously is going to be we've had positive experiences. We're matching. I love when we go pull the notes from when they toured and we bring back why they fell in love and why they chose the community. I think that's great. Just like throughout the course of a relationship, you keep reminding your significant other why they fell in love with you in the first place, why they chose you of all the fish in the sea, why they chose you. So, just like that happens. And sometimes at the end of a relationship, it doesn't work out. And sometimes life changes. In a relationship, you grow apart, you realize that you're no longer compatible, circumstances changes. Well, in leasing, the same thing still applies, right? When someone decides to move from your community, you could have done everything right. Maybe they got transferred for work and they're moving across country. Maybe they got into a relationship and they bought their first house or their family composition changed. All of that, right, is the positive. And that's going to be a great split. You want to make sure that you still treat them with dignity. They're still people at the end of the day. And then there's some relationships that come to an end that end very bad and, not on great terms. And there's a lot of negativity. That's what we don't want. We don't want to be negative, and take it personal. Things happen. Let's just, agree to disagree. Here's the steps we have to take to dissolve the relationship and move forward because you never know when something's going to change and you can rekindle that flame with a significant other, or they might decide the grass wasn't greener at the other side. It's all here, right? So, in conclusion, I can tell you that this is how I thought about leasing and, how I would explain it to a brand new leasing professional who has never been in this industry before. I would love to hear how you explain it because I was going to go with maybe kind of like baking. That was my first thought. Or I was going to talk about it as a story and like a movie board. But for some reason, the relationship aspect really stood out to me when this person asked me the question. And I had to like take some time to think about it because I was just like, had never been asked that before. So here's the thing, guys. You're falling in love with Rooms with Ronald. I already know. I'm seeing the comments. This is great. I love everything that you guys write. I take it all and I try to make it better. If you want to be a guest on Rooms with Ronald and you want to talk leasing, you want to talk marketing, I have a spot for you. If you're on the shy end, but you have some suggestions, or you want to know how I would handle certain objections, or how I would sell that really awkward floor plan that, the renters only built four of, I can help you with that. Or if you have a crazy story that's happened to you in the leasing while you've been leasing apartments, send that to me as well because I'm going to compile this and I have some really fun ideas for the shows. You can send all that to roomswithronald@gmail.com. Again, that's roomswithronald@gmail.com. I want you guys to know I can't wait for our next episode because I have Stephanie Ayler, who, if you know her, she is a genius. But her and I are going to be talking improv skills and how you can upskill your leasing team. Thank you for listening to Rooms with Ronald. If you liked it, please subscribe on your podcast streaming service, like us, leave comments, share it with your friends. That way we can get the word out. This was a creative joint by Ronald Harrington, and it's produced and brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. But until next time, guys, happy leasing.